and we can go from there. Give me a second. We're still, folks on Google Meet, we are using Zoom for this session. I've already shared the link in our chat. Can you guys disconnect from Google Meet and move to Zoom?
Yes, sure.
Thank you guys. Okay, so if you go to gettaurus.org, can you guys see this? Just
Yes.
copy this as is, like vi space any file name like test.yaml, enter, copy this into your vi, colon wq, so it will save your file, and then this file, wherever that location is, from the same directory, just type bzt and that file name, enter. So you can call it as a quick test.yaml as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and check if you guys have pop-up blockers. That could be the reason your files aren't installed. And right after that, run this test with bzt space quick test.yaml. Once everybody confirms, because I want these sessions to be hands-on sessions, so I really need to spend, and I knew that even after spending few minutes yesterday, we will run into installation issues. So I kept today's session as like one installation, and then second half we'll be focusing on our actual scripting part. So can you guys once confirm that we all have Taurus and JMeter working? For those who are struggling, just let me know so that I can help you guys.
Yeah, now I was able to, now it's running my quick test.yaml. So once that does, then I have to test JMeter, right?
Yeah, now you'll find the JMeter. Even if you terminate the test with like Control C, you should be good to go.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So you will find, if you are not able to find your JMeter location, somebody who's on Windows already shared the location.
Yeah, I have that location. I'll test it.
Yeah, folks on Windows, check your C folder. That's where your JMeter is. I'm not sure if that's right for BZT, but can somebody tell me where? So for people who are trying, did you guys install Parag? I'm seeing your question that config error when reading quicktest.yaml. Did you save the file called quicktest.yaml first? So
Yes, I did. Let me cross check.
So you need to run your bzt command from the same directory where your quicktest.yaml resides.
So both of them are at root directory of C drive. That's where both of them are. And that's where I'm trying to run. BZT works fine for me. But when I run BZT and quick test YML, that's when I'm seeing this error.
You shouldn't see the error. Have you copied? Just copy this. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Hi Sunita, we've switched from Google Meet to Zoom. I've already shared the Zoom link on the chat. Can you please join that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, let me verify the link.
Okay, coming back to Zoom, guys. Do we all have installation in place? So
not yet.
One thing, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you guys already have BZT running, all you need to do is copy this entire file as is, and paste it into any file and save it as like quicktest.yaml, and then run bzt space quicktest.yaml. For Windows guys, it will be from their command prompt. For MacBooks or others, it will be from your
So when we run BZT, that means our configuration is in place, is it?
That's correct. So when you run BZT and you're getting that no configuration file error means that you guys have already successfully installed Taurus. Now we are trying to install JMeter. So I'm going to give like 2 more minutes on this. If not, I'll take I'll get started because I don't want others to keep waiting. But if you don't have JMeter right away, or if you're struggling with BZT still, just follow these 3 steps. There's not much to do here. First, install BZT, then copy this file, like this lines of text into any plain text file, save it as .yaml extension. See if you saved that file as like with .yaml, but if you open Notepad or Notepad++, it might have added another extension to it. So check for your files extension and then run this particular command. Those are the 3 things. For folks on, can you guys see my terminal screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for folks that are on MacBooks, just type jmeter.sh and a new window will open for you guys. For this, you're going to need Java. So make sure that's why I wanted to get all this verified yesterday itself. So we don't spend time on installations today. This is how your JMeter UI will look like. For folks in Windows, you can directly go to the Taurus's JMeter directory and double click on either JMeter file or jmeter.bat file. Both of them should work and you should see a screen like this. Let me know once at least some of you see this screen.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Because these are really, really hands-on sessions. So if you miss out on certain things, you might actually start feeling lost. So that's one of the reasons I'm taking today's like 30 minutes, which was part of my actually curriculum to get you guys started. So I see, so for folks that are on Windows, this is Sue, I'm talking, so for Sue,
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll listen to the lecture and I'll go look for
So
wherever JMeter got installed, but everything else is working for me.
So are you on Windows?
Yes, I am.
So if you,
I'll troubleshoot after the lecture.
so, okay, this is for Windows guys. On your C colon users, and then your username, folder. This is your location for all of you on Windows.
Some folk on the phone are talking.
Yeah.
Prevents me from hearing you.
So Rachna, can you please mute everybody from your side if you can do?
I have, what is it?
If you can mute everyone from your side. So
I muted everybody.
Okay,
So
thank you.
For Windows folks, if you're looking for your where your JMeter folder resides, this is the location. So it's going to be your C:/users/ your username, and then there's .bzt folder. So this is where you should find your JMeter. I'm going to copy. I can't copy actually this whole thing. It's weird. Yeah, I can't copy it. So it isn't letting me copy the chat, but this is the location. So this is how your typical JMeter screen looks like. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough about of this screen, just the UI to begin with. This is for your new file, as every other application that we know of. This is to open your files. The next one is to save, and then so on. Like these are pretty intuitive. This is cut, paste, cut, copy, and paste buttons. So basically your JMeter screen is divided into 2 panes. One is essentially something similar to your project directories, and a second one where you can actually see what your component means. So the first and the basic construct anytime you launch your JMeter screen is going to be your test plan. So what is your test plan? The test plan is a placeholder where everything in your JMeter script will reside. So if you guys can follow what I'm doing, that would help you get an understanding. So have you all at least launched JMeter UI at your end?
Yeah.
Do you guys see the same screen as I do? The colors might be different depending on what theme you guys have.
Rachna Lakshman here. So I don't see JMeter in my C drive. I did install ran BJT. Still, I don't see.
So after running BZT, did you do the quick test.yaml part as well?
Yeah, I've saved in Notepad that in YAML format. I have ran that with BJT quick_test.yaml.
Okay. What was the log? In the log, it might tell you that downloading JMeter to this particular location. So this is the location that is
Okay.
working for Windows, guys. So this is like in your C:, users.
All right. Yeah, I got it. I got the log. So then let me go to that. Let's check that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's no config file, Rishikesh. Wait for some time. So you just need to, do you need the BZT file? Somebody's already pasted the BZT file here. Parag has already pasted it. You guys can just copy and paste it from the GetTaurus website as well. Okay, so coming back to our test plan. Test plan is your placeholder for everything that you do in your JMeter script. So JMeter essentially has three major constructing blocks. It starts with test plan as like your root of everything in your JMeter script. Then the next thing that comes into your JMeter that you will add is going to be threads. So we will start for this particular session with thread group. So if you guys are already on the screen, right click on your test plan, then click on add, then threads, and then click on thread group. Once you do that, let me know quickly. Because unless and until you do it on your own, you won't really get the feeling and be able to correlate with a lot of things we will be doing going forward. Okay, cool. So once we have the thread group in place, this is going to be your starting point of your JMeter execution. Anything that is going to go under this thread group will be executed for your load tests. So we're going to go 2 steps back and revise what we learned yesterday. So yesterday I taught you 3 concepts. One was throughput, second one was your response time, and third one was your resource utilizations. So this particular component of your thread JMeter script will decide the load that you are going to create on your applications or the load that you want to run your tests with. So how do I create the load? I create load by creating virtual users. Those virtual users are nothing but real users, but automated. And this is the place where I mentioned that how many users I want to create and how long they should be running the particular test for. So this is all, and all these things are done with the thread group. So thread group becomes your first building block in your JMeter script. Anytime you're going to run your JMeter test, you need to have a thread group to be able to add requests under it. So I'm not going to confuse you guys around a lot of thread properties today because it's like pretty much beginning of the session. So just remember that anytime you're starting your JMeter test scripting, right after test plan, all you do, the first step you do is add a thread group to it. How do you add a thread group? Right click on your test plan, add threads and thread group. You will see more thread groups here. Some of them will go over at towards the end of our sessions. But for the beginning, we're going to use this thread group, a normal thread group, the first option. Once you add a thread group, you will see certain thread properties. First one is number of threads. Second one is ramp up period. And third one is loop count. So number of threads is where you mention your concurrency. Concurrency is nothing but how many users I'm going to run my tests with. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. We'll get into more complicated concepts around concurrency and concurrency control and throughput control in later sessions. But for today's session, let's just remember this as how many numbers I'm going to run my tests with is my concurrency. Why am I going to specify this number of threads? The whole goal or point behind running load tests is to create massive load volume to make sure that your systems can handle that much amount of load. The next part is ramp up period. So ramp up period is the time that you tell your threads to take to come into system completely. So basically, if I say I want to bring 10 users or I want to run my test with 10 users and I want to specify my ramp up period as 10 seconds, which means, what does it mean is that every 1 second, one user will be entered into my system. Why do we need ramp up period? So imagine a day-to-day life scenario where we guys are either accessing Outlook or Googling something or going to Amazon. Even though there comes a point during the day when any website hits its peak, it doesn't start right at the 7 in the morning. The users are gradually increasing on your websites. So it's the same logic here that we are trying to simulate what we see in our day-to-day life or in real life scenarios. It's the same thing that we try to mimic from JMeter. So that's where your ramp up period comes into picture to make sure to bring this load into the system gradually. The second reason why we want ramp up period is to not to overwhelm systems. For example, if you're on cloud and if you're just starting your test directly with 10 million users, your systems are not going to be able to cope up with it because your real scenario is gradually user load builds up, and according to the user load that's coming your way, you auto scale your instances. Or even in normal scenarios, it takes a while for Java to create threads or get the memory, like the maximum memory that we have specified. With the current tuning mechanisms, you always specify like JVM launches with the maximum memory, but overall, to be able to not to give your system that shock, you start with ramp up period. And the next one is loop count. This is where you mention how many times I want to repeat this particular request, how many times I want to send this request over and over again. So for today's session, we're going to keep it extremely simple. All we're going to do is first launch a JMeter. Then we see a test plan. We right click on test plan, add a thread group, and set all these properties as 1, 1, and 1. The next interesting part is adding or creating an HTTP request. So are you guys following what I said so far? Do you guys have any questions? Yes, Shalini, to answer your question, your one thread is your one user here. So the number of threads that you mentioned, those many number of users will be created. Going back, do you guys have any questions so far around thread group? Okay, cool. So after this, what we're going to do is we'll try to add a very simple HTTP GET request. So right click on add sampler and HTTP request. Let me know once you all get to this point so that we can move forward. Do we all have, some of you guys can just unmute yourself and let me know if you guys have followed until this step.
Yeah, I'm good.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, cool. So the next part is where we actually start our scripting. So what we did so far is launched JMeter, added a thread group, then we added next thing called HTTP request. That's where all the interesting stuff starts. So we all know a typical structure of our HTTP request. Any HTTP request, if I, for example, I'll take a very simple example of get Taurus. If you guys have either Chrome or Firefox, you should be able to find something called developer tools in your browser. So if you go to Chrome, view and then developer tools, you will see this particular window. So one thing as a performance test engineer or a performance engineer that you should be really good at is to be able to read your requests. You need to understand how your requests are formed. For people that are into QE or who use Postman would know what I'm talking about or will understand it better. For those who are fairly new to overall web requests, I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough as to what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about knowing your HTTP requests. So whenever you load a page, it's not just one HTTP request. There are multiple requests that are going in. As you can see, I'm going to clear it one more time for you guys. What I've done is I'm just hitting on getTaurus.org. Once I hit this request, I see these many components that are making one page up. Some of these are going to be your JavaScripts. Some of these are going to be your fonts. Some of these are going to be your CSS, the images that we've used here, and you will see something as your, like the first request is normally your HTTP request, which actually is making a call to your server. So do you guys see my browser? Can you guys see my view developer tools window?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put my laptop for charging. Thanks for notifying me.
It's only 16%.
Yeah, I think it will survive this session. Okay, so coming back to our developer tools, this is something that you guys should be familiar with if you really want to pour into any types of testing, partly because it helps you understand your requests better. So most of your HTTP requests are going to have certain parts to associated with it. One is going to be your protocol. What type of protocol I'm using? Am I using HTTP or HTTPS? So if you see your request URL, you will see protocol, then your actual server name or host name, which is your getTaurus.org, and then rest of the path. For example, if I click on say learning Taurus, it added a path to this request. So if I go back and then select this, you will see the actual request here. So there are two requests they've created. One is get Taurus slash index slash kb dot slash index. So in your request URL itself, there are three parts attached to it. One is your protocol. Second one is your server name or host name. And the last part after the host name, like after the .org, everything after that slash is going to be your actual request path. The next one is going to be your request method. What type of method I'm making, requesting? What's the method type? So depending on what actions you're performing, your methods differ. So for HTTP, you will see methods as get, post, delete, put, and so on. So that is the next thing. And then there are request headers. These are the headers that essentially define what that request is all about. Most important headers are essentially accept, encoding, content type, and if there's any cookies or any authorization headers that are being passed. So depending on what you guys are testing, the headers will differ, the values will be different. So our goal, as we discussed earlier in our earlier sessions and even earlier today, is to mimic what we are doing in our real life. Through JMeter. So what we are trying to achieve here is mimicking your HTTP requests, but through JMeter. And that's exactly what we are going to be doing today. So if you see, if you added your HTTP request in here, you will see the same components that we saw on our actual browser request. If you guys are familiar with Postman, you'll find the JMeter UI, or at least HTTP sampler, similar to Postman. So the first is our request name. So I'm just going to give a very simple example of google.com today. From next classes onwards, we'll be deep diving into some other APIs. But to keep it as simple as possible, we'll just start with google.com. I hope they don't block me. But anyways, so the first one, I'm going to do the same thing. So if I'm trying to script google.com, what my approach should be, I check from developer tools, you will see google.com request here. My next step is to just compare this request and mimic it in my JMeter script for my HTTP sampler. So what do I have here? My protocol is HTTPS. So what I'm going to do is mention the protocol as HTTPS. And while I'm doing that, I want you guys as well to follow the steps. So all of us are in sync. The next one is server name or IP. What's my server name? www.google.com. I'm just going to type that out here. There's no port number mentioned, so I'm not going to be using that port number. The next one is request method. What's my request method? Get. It's already selected. But if you guys are trying to script something else, you will see the types of methods that are supported by JMeter, and you will see get, post, head, put, options, etc. here. Most widely, even if you guys are scripting, like writing scripts for REST APIs, most widely used would be methods are essentially get, post, put, delete. I haven't seen anybody using anything else beyond that, but in case if you want to use, you can actually add other methods as well. The path, there's nothing after google.com, so we're just going to use slash here. That's it. Now just click on save. Create a new folder if you guys can, so that all your scripts are in one place. There's a new folder option here. I'm just going to create a new folder under my home directory called JMeter session and save this google.com.jmx under that folder. Are we all good till here?
Yeah,
All I've
yeah,
done,
I'm good.
all I've done is essentially just looking at my HTTP request and then adding its components in my JMeter HTTP sampler. Before I run out of battery, let me just quickly plug it in. Are we all good till here? Any questions so far? And save your script. Any questions?
The file name .jmx is what it gets saved as, right?
That's correct. So you need to save it as filename.jmx. So anything. Yeah, so one thing that I think I missed out because of my comfort with developer tools is that you need to select the network tab. Thanks, Sue, for pointing that out. So anytime you're on, like wherever you launch your developer tools, you need to select your network tab to be able to see all the requests that are making your page up. So when you select developer tools, in my case, it was selected by default. But if not, click on network tab, and that's when you will see all the requests. So I'm going to show it one more time. Developer tools. It's gone right now. So we'll try one more time. So for me, it's like by default selected, but I think initially it might select elements or something else. For us, at least from scripting perspective, network tab is the one that we care about. And if you click on here, you will see everything that was sent to just get one google.com or to fetch the google.com page. Out of that, our concern is essentially our HTTP request. That's what we scripted here. So do we all have this particular part done for all of us, or at least majority of us on this call?
Yeah. And one more thing, like for the accessing the developer tools, you can also another shortcut is right click on empty space on the on anywhere on the page website and then just go inspect.
Yeah, so we are not using inspect, rather we
No, but I mean to get to that tab easily in case if someone wants to, like, you know, remember shortcuts.
Cool. So going back, are we all following till this part where we just created a simple google.com request?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So next part is to see what we did is correct or not. So there's one component in we're going to add a new component. I'm not going to deep dive into that component. We're just going to add it as is. So right click on your thread group again, and then click on listener and click on this listener called view results tree. I'm going to keep this window open for a bit. Listener and view results tree. Add that and let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, do we all have it? Perfect.
Yes.
So what this essentially does is every request that's being sent from your JMeter, it will show you the request and its details in here. So now that we have added a thread group, our thread group settings are one user, 1 second is our ramp up time, and loop count is just 1. So if you run it, you will see a request sent to the google.com. So this is where it gives you the summary of first one is a thread name, because we're not like JMeter is creating nothing but threads, and those threads act as virtual users. So the first name is essentially the name of the thread that was created. Then at what time the thread was started or the request was made. Give me a second. So, okay, to run your JMeter tests, you just need to click on this green play button. Or you can also use Command R for Windows and Control R for, Control R for Windows and Command R for MacBooks users. But if the shortcuts don't work for you, just click on this start button here. Are we all seeing the same results as I am seeing?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
congratulations, you wrote your first ever JMeter script today. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, at least for today's session, so that you guys don't feel overwhelmed with the information. Going forward, sessions will start getting a little more complicated, but I like to explain it in as simple words as possible. So keep me posted if you think that my pace is fast or it's too slow, or if you guys like want me to change the way I explain things. Anything, any feedback is good feedback. So now we'll go over this very quickly. So we actually ran our first ever very small load test possible with a GET request. What we've done is essentially we just added a sampler, told JMeter what we wanted to do, and then ran it. So view results tree is something that you will use a lot while scripting your test. So when writing your test scripts, you use view results tree, but when you actually run your load tests for getting real world results or for getting your analysis done, you never ever keep your view results tree in your scripts ever. Do not ever do that, because it's a very heavy component and it could actually drain out your load generator's resources. So load generator is nothing but the system from where you are running your load tests. And when you're running your load tests, what we are doing is creating virtual users to simulate certain scenarios. And instead of simulating those scenarios, if your system is using resources for view results tree, you're essentially defeating the purpose of the tests. The threads that you're creating will not get enough system resources, and that could essentially mislead you in terms of the results that you get. So you never ever want to keep view results tree enabled when you're running your load tests. But while scripting, this is going to be your best friend, because you will be verify everything that you're trying to do from here. I'm just gonna
A question here.
So there's somebody who's saying, please explain that sampler result in brief and what are the things that we need to check in the sampler result. Yes, so we are going to cover that. I just wanted to cover at least A, installation today, B, adding thread group, C, adding a sampler, and then running a small test. So we've covered that. We have 4 minutes left in this session. So if you guys have any questions, let's open it for question answers. And I
have a question.
Yes.
Can you tell me what exactly it means when you say that view results tree should not be enabled? So when you're writing a script, you should go and
right,
or you should not view it. That's all.
Correct. So right now we are writing a script. That's why I've kept it enabled. Okay. But if I'm actually running a load test, so we have, for example, you have a load test planned tomorrow. Today, you finish writing your load test. Right after that, you know that my script is working as it is supposed to work. Then I go and right click on this view results tree, apparently, yeah, and then just disable it.
Oh, okay.
Because this is extremely resource consuming feature of JMeter, which is meant for just debugging purposes and verifying if your script is working fine.
Okay.
So this is a very simple example, but as we go into complex examples, you will know why view results tree is very important in your scripting duration. But because, so I'll show you what exactly it does. It's nothing but a smaller version of your web browser where you will see everything in here in terms of request. This is, so if you click on the request tab of your view results tree, it'll show your request, and then it'll also show you your request headers.
Okay.
You click on your response tab, it actually grabs entire response, and then it also has your headers. So just imagine if your responses are heavy.
Yes. Yeah. Makes
In
sense.
that case, all your threads and your memory that is supposed to be used for your actual tests is now being consumed by these requests and response data that view results tree is capturing. And that's why when we actually run load tests, we always keep view results tree disabled. It's a very heavy component of JMeter.
Okay. Thank you.
But just imagine that something went wrong in your request and you're like writing your test script as we are writing right now. It's very easy place for you to debug that, okay, this is the request I sent. This is the response I got. Let's see what did I got in the response, because that could essentially lead me to find a potential problem with my scripting itself. So to summarize this session, what all things we've done today is we followed our Taurus installation. Then we made sure that we have JMeter in place. For Windows folks, the location of JMeter is under their users directory under .bzt folder. .bzt could also be treated as a hidden folder. So make sure that you search for everything, and in your search options also for Windows, you search for hidden folders in case if you're trying to search BZT directly. Same for MacBooks. The next one, then we launched our JMeter. Then what we did is we added a thread group to it. How did we add a thread group? Just right click on your test plan, threads, and then add a thread group. Then under that thread group, we added one sample, very small HTTP request. How do you add an HTTP request? You just right click on thread group. Then to add an HTTP request, you actually click on something called sampler, and then you click on an HTTP request. And that's how you add HTTP requests. Then we switched back and forth between our developer tools network tab to understand how our HTTP request actually looks like. And then we just filled the fields here. And that's about it. So I'm going to stop recording here, and then we can see if you guys have any questions and answers. I'll share the recording for session I conducted on Monday as well as today in next 2 days or by the end of this week.